Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and today I bring you the Rise of Kyoshi Chapter 2 review. Now, the chapter is short, but there's so much that goes on in the chapter, it may just leave you confused. The only thing that we know for certain is that Kyoshi is 16 years old throughout this chapter. Keep in mind, in Chapter 1 she was a 7-year-old orphan. The title of Chapter 2 is called 9 Years Later, meaning she is 16 years old as we read Chapter 2 of this story. Kyoshi doesn't know earthbending, and apparently they found the avatar that's not Kyoshi. We're going to unpack both of those, but I think what I find most interesting about this chapter that I want to unpack first is the fact that Kyoshi doesn't know earthbending, but Kyoshi and this girl named Rangi, who's a firebender, are the personal assistant and bodyguard to Avatar Yun. So there was a situation that occurred that I'm going to get into greater details later, where Kyoshi and Rangi were delivering this jar to the Avatar mansion. The jar was flung into the air, and that's where you get this dialogue between Rangi and Kyoshi, where she was like, Kyoshi, catch the jar. And Kyoshi was like, I can't earthbend. And Rangi looks back at her and was like, what do you mean you can't earthbend? It says in the ledger that you're an earthbender. And this is where you get the weird phrasing on page 21. I want to say it's page 21, where it's implied that Kyoshi is a bender, but she's not an earthbender. Which would be actually crazy, because there is so much going on with Kyoshi just as a character in these first two chapters. It leads you to think that, who is she? Like, that's the only question I can come up with for these first two chapters. Who is Kyoshi? Because one, she's not able to be located with the Earth Kingdom, Avatar radar test. It's a literal radar test that has never failed, but for some reason Kyoshi is off the grid. Two, if it turns out to be true that she is a bender but not an earthbender, she would be the first avatar in history to learn an element before her own native element. From the information that we have, it's potential that past avatars before Kyoshi also had this debacle, but nothing that we know from the canon or the lore of Avatar. Kyoshi's the first. So let's deep dive into chapter 2, and we're gonna pick up where the chapter actually starts with Kyoshi delivering a jar of pickled spicy kelp. The last jar of pickled spicy kelp. She's delivering that to the Avatar mansion, and as she is journeying up the hill to her home, she is confronted by three girls: Aoma, Suzu, and Jay. We know Suzu from chapter 1. She was the little girl 9 years ago who took the Avatar test and picked 2 out of the 4 previous Avatar toys. Her father basically pimped her out to get money, and now you have Suzu, Aoma, and Jay following Kyoshi and basically tormenting her as she's trying to do her job, which is be the assistant of the Avatar and get him these spicy fucking pickles. Now, we find out that the whole reason that Suzu is doing this is because she's genuinely curious about the Avatar. She wants to see him, she wants to meet him, she wants to know what type of person she is, but in her wanting to do that, she's also talking shit about Zhang Shi and Kelsang, which Kyoshi doesn't take kindly to. But because Kyoshi is a practicer of neutral Jing, she is non-confrontation, meaning she's not going to fight back, which is an issue because at a certain point in this book, these three try to attack Kyoshi, in which case Rangi jumps in and was like, yo, I can't let you do that. That's the personal assistant of the Avatar. I'm the bodyguard of the Avatar. I'm not gonna let you lay your hands on her. Basically, she's royalty. Essentially, like, it's kind of like, oh hey, I'm the Avatar, you can't touch me, but you also can't touch my staff. One of those types of situations that is going on. So as Suzu, Aoma, and Jay are about to leave, Suzu uses her earthbending to fling the jar up in the air. This is the situation that I talked about earlier, in which case Rangi was like, Kyoshi, use your earthbending and catch it. Suzu's also an earthbender. She says, I can't. That's when this whole situation happens. Now, just as it's about to hit the ground, Kyoshi tackles Rangi in order to save her and get her out the way. They fall on the ground, but the jar doesn't shatter because this is when Avatar Yun catches the jar himself. I'm assuming they are right outside the house at this point, but regardless, up until this point, I really thought Yun was just like a figment, like they were just bluffing and there wasn't an Avatar Yun at all, but he actually exists. Now, I don't believe that he's the Avatar. I believe he's just like a fill-in, like a facade. He's a facade just to keep up appearance of an Avatar, right? I'm assuming the Earth Kingdom is still looking for Kyoshi at this point. Regardless, Yun catches it and he starts communicating with Rangi and Kyoshi in the pebbles, right? There's some rocks on the ground and he's spelling out pebbles, which is apparently a very hard task to do for earthbenders. Manipulating large amounts of earth, yeah, that comes with practice, but you really have to hone your skill as an earthbender to spell out kanjis with pebbles. So Rangi, she gets infuriated by this. She brushes the rocks away and she begins to scold Kyoshi for not fighting back. But this is where you get the peaceful side of Kyoshi. And she's like, you don't have to resort to violence with everything that always happens. You have to practice neutral Jin. And Rangi's a complete hothead, and she doesn't buy any of that shit. And it's kind of like, you know, confusing, because the vibe that I got from Kyoshi in Avatar: The Last Airbender was she was cutthroat, right? We all remember that scene, the flashback of Kyoshi, where she separated Kyoshi Island from the Earth King. And that caused, I forgot what the king's name was, but that caused that king to fall into the sea and die. Now, granted, Kyoshi didn't kill him directly, but her actions directly influenced his death, which she does bring up in the flashback. And you have this moment of thinking while you're reading this chapter, and you're like, at what point did Kyoshi become a savage? Like, that's the question I came up with. What point did Kyoshi become a savage? When did she drop neutral Jin? Did she ever drop neutral Jin? Who knows? But that is the chapter, ladies and gentlemen. If you made it to the end, thank you for rocking with me. If you are new, go plus ultra and smash that subscribe button. It lets me know you rock with the content that I put out on this channel. Leave in the comment section, what do you think is going on with Kyoshi? Do you think that she's an earthbender, or do you think that she knows a different form of bending before her primary element? That would be interesting. What element do you think that she mastered first? I believe earthbending and firebending are the similar ones. Yes, because airbending is similar to waterbending and firebending is similar to earthbending. So is it possible that she knows firebending first? Do you think that Jiangsu and Kelsang know that Kyoshi is the Avatar? I doubt it, because she should have been practicing by this point. But it's going to be interesting to see what's going on in chapter 3, and I can't wait to read it. But that is all I have for y'all today. Y'all be safe out here, and like always, keep it safe and wrap it tight. I'm out.
Captain Bright, I'm taking off in 1 minute. You better hurry if you want right out of here. So, we don't have much time. Nikolai's not going to wait around for us. Hurry! Take out that gunner! Hang on! Behind us! Right side! Right side! Hold on! Hang on! Nikolai, drop the bloody ramp! We're coming in! Vehicles at 12 o'clock! So, rookie's down! Take the wheel! Aim for the ramp!